Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Kris. This is how George Washington shaped the role of Commander-in-Chief, first President of the United States. This is the fourth part from BM Research. Give that old thumbs up-a-roo a click for me if you would. Subscribe to the channel. You can also sponsor a video by clicking on the thanks button. Throw some money at the channel and then give me a video to react to. That's the word. Then your name is sponsoring that video. It's a little thank you. You can still request without donating. You just don't get the extra shout out, and it takes a little bit more time. Okay, let's get into GW.
It was a defining act that not only solidified his place as a national hero, but also set a lasting precedent for the peaceful transfer of authority. His actions demonstrated that true greatness lies in service to others and in the willingness to place the greater good above personal ambition. As the United States grew and evolved, Washington's example continued to serve as a guiding light, inspiring leaders to uphold the ideals of the Republic. Part 9. Shaping the Presidency. When George Washington was unanimously elected as the first President of the United States in 1789, he faced the monumental task of shaping a role that had no precedent. The office of the presidency was a cornerstone of the newly ratified Constitution, but its powers and responsibilities were still undefined in practice. As the first person to hold the position, Washington's leadership would set critical precedents that would guide the nation's governance and the behavior of future presidents. Through his actions, Washington defined the presidency as an office of dignity, restraint, and service, cementing its place within a framework of Republican ideals. Washington's initial reluctance to assume the presidency speaks volumes about his character. He viewed the role as a duty rather than a position of personal ambition. Having already served as Commander-in-Chief during the Revolutionary War and retiring to Mount Vernon, he had hoped to remain in private life. However, the weaknesses of the Articles of Confederation and the need for strong national leadership compelled him to accept the role. His election by the Electoral College was unanimous, reflecting the immense trust and respect he commanded across the young republic. From the very beginning, Washington approached the presidency with a deep sense of responsibility and awareness of its symbolic importance. He understood that every action he took would establish a precedent, shaping the future of the office and influencing the public's perception of national leadership. Washington carefully balanced the need to project authority with the principles of humility and service. He adopted a formal but not overly regal demeanor, rejecting titles such as His Highness in favor of the simple and Republican Mr. President. This decision underscored his commitment to the ideals of equality and democracy. One of Washington's first tasks as president was to establish the executive branch of government. The Constitution provided a framework for the presidency but left much of its structure and organization to be determined. Washington worked closely with Congress to create executive departments, including the Departments of State, Treasury, and War. He appointed capable and trusted individuals to lead these departments, such as Thomas Jefferson as Secretary of State and Alexander Hamilton as Secretary of the Treasury. These appointments reflected Washington's commitment to assembling a government based on merit and expertise, rather than partisan interests. Washington also set important precedents in his interactions with Congress. He understood that the separation of powers was fundamental to the success of the Constitution and took care to respect the legislative branch's authority. At the same time, he asserted the independence of the executive branch, ensuring that the presidency would not become subordinate to Congress. His decision to deliver an inaugural address in person, for example, established a tradition that underscored the importance of direct communication between the president and the people. Similarly, his careful use of the presidential veto demonstrated his belief in the balance of power and the need for restraint in the exercise of executive authority. One of the most significant challenges Washington faced during his presidency was navigating the ideological divisions that were beginning to emerge within the government. The debates between Jefferson and Hamilton over issues such as the national bank, federal power, and foreign policy reflected broader tensions within the young republic. Washington sought to mediate these conflicts and maintain unity, often finding himself caught between competing visions for the nation's future. His ability to navigate these divisions without allowing them to undermine the government was a testament to his leadership and commitment to the broader good.
Well, they did undermine the government in one aspect, in that Thomas Jefferson convinced James Madison, who was Washington's right-hand man, to turn against Hamilton. And then they wrote articles in the paper and didn't use their own name, but tried to make people think that Washington didn't know what he was doing. So they did try to undermine it. Washington, as furious and as rageful as he could be, did everything he could to kind of ignore it. But he let it be known that if there was something to be said out there, say it in here. And Jefferson was not confrontational, and Madison wasn't in the cabinet.
Washington's approach to foreign policy further defined the role of the presidency. He believed that the United States, as a young and vulnerable nation, should avoid entangling alliances and focus on maintaining neutrality in international conflicts. This principle was most famously articulated in his farewell address, where he cautioned against permanent alliances that could compromise the nation's independence. During his presidency, Washington implemented this policy of neutrality, most notably during the conflict between Britain and France following the French Revolution. His proclamation of neutrality in 1793 established the precedent that the president could take decisive action in foreign affairs to protect national interests. Another critical precedent set by Washington was his decision to step down after 2 terms in office. While there was no constitutional limit on the number of terms a president could serve, Washington believed that remaining in power indefinitely was incompatible with the principles of Republican government. His voluntary decision to retire after 8 years reinforced the idea that the presidency was a temporary position of service, not a lifetime appointment. This act of restraint became one of the most enduring examples of Washington's commitment to the ideals of democracy and the rule of law. Throughout his presidency, Washington maintained a strong connection with the American people. He undertook extensive tours of the country, traveling to various states to meet with citizens and learn about their concerns. These tours were not merely ceremonial. They reflected Washington's belief in the importance of direct engagement with the public. By making himself accessible and visible, he reinforced the idea that the president was a servant of the people, accountable to their needs and aspirations. This approach helped to build trust and confidence in the new government during a critical period of its development. Washington's leadership style as president was characterized by prudence, restraint, and a focus on long-term stability. He was deeply aware of the fragility of the young republic and took care to avoid actions that might jeopardize its future. His ability to rise above partisan divisions and prioritize the broader good set a standard for future presidents, even as the nation's political landscape grew increasingly contentious. Washington's presidency demonstrated that effective leadership required not only vision and decisiveness but also humility and a willingness to listen and adapt. By the time Washington left office in 1797, he had established the presidency as an institution of dignity, accountability, and service. His actions had defined the office not as a seat of personal power but as a cornerstone of the republic's governance. Washington's legacy as the first president remains one of the most significant contributions to the United States political history. His ability to navigate uncharted territory, establish enduring principles, and embody the ideals of the Revolution ensured that the presidency would become a model of democratic leadership for generations to come. Washington's presidency was not without its challenges and criticisms. He faced opposition to some of his policies, including the Jay Treaty and the establishment of the National Bank. However, His ability to maintain public trust and navigate these controversies without compromising the principles of the Constitution remains a hallmark of his leadership.
The Jay Treaty wasn't very good. It was John Jay negotiated it and didn't really do anything. On the other end, future fifth president James Monroe was serving. He was an ambassador. I want to say France, but that's not right. Anyways, he had negotiated a good deal, a kind of pro-American deal with the British. John Jay was sent over, negotiated his deal, because he was sent there by Washington, sends it back. Washington got the Jay Treaty, got the Monroe Treaty, I believe, first. And they looked over it. And they were like, okay. Then they got the Jay Treaty. They looked over that. They went with the Jay Treaty. I don't know why, but James Monroe flipped out. He was recalled, and he was kind of chewed out. I think he might have been, I don't think he was censured, but it was close. But he was chewed out. And so that was pretty much the end of his love affair with Washington. And then when both treaties are looked at side by side, Monroe's treaty was way better. So why they went with the Jay Treaty, I just don't know. But I know that Washington really got along with Jay. John Jay was in that 1783 to 1789 window when Washington had retired. John Jay was one of the guys who was helping him establish a government. And Jay went on to become, I think he was the first Chief Justice. Let me check that. Give me a second. Okay. Yes, John Jay was the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, appointed by President George Washington when the new government was established in 1789. In 1794, Jay negotiated a treaty with Great Britain, which became known as the Jay Treaty. Let me look up the Monroe Treaty real fast. Okay. I apologize. I was a little off. In 1794, I know this has nothing to do with Washington, but I brought it up. 1794, James Monroe was appointed by President Washington as the United States Minister to France. So I was right on that. Monroe was an anti-federalist senator from Virginia at the time. Monroe's appointment was made to reassure the French government that the United States remained friendly despite the fact that John Jay was negotiating a treaty with Great Britain, who was at war with France. Monroe was recalled in 1796. Go away. After Jay's treaty frustrated his efforts to maintain good relations with France. Monroe later negotiated the Monroe-Pinckney Treaty in 1806, which would have extended the Jay Treaty. However, the treaty was never ratified by the Senate due to opposition from Thomas Jefferson. The failure to ratify the treaty led to increased tensions between the United States and Great Britain, which eventually culminated in the War of 1812. That's nice. I really don't like Thomas Jefferson. I respect him. He was an intelligent man, but he was just a backstabbing piece of... Okay, back to the video.
His presidency laid the foundation for a government that balanced power with accountability, strength with humility, and authority with service. As the first president, George Washington had the unique opportunity and responsibility to shape the role of commander-in-chief in a way that reflected the ideals of the Revolution. Through his actions, he ensured that the presidency would serve as a unifying force in the nation's governance, providing stability and direction during its formative years.
So on the last part, there was another, thing of a scene like this, and there was a guy here who had a broken oar, and It's just a little nub here, and I understand that his oar is on the other side. I get it. But it's just kind of funny that it's a little nub now. So if we carry on from the last episode, this poor guy's oar broke.
His legacy continues to inspire leaders and citizens alike, reminding them of the power of principled leadership in shaping a better future. Part 10. Legacy and the Role of Commander-in-Chief. George Washington's legacy as the first Commander-in-Chief of the United States transcends his military achievements and political leadership. His tenure established enduring principles that continue to define the office of Commander-in-Chief, setting a precedent for how the role would function within the framework of a constitutional republic. Through his vision, restraint, and commitment to democratic ideals, Washington crafted a blueprint for leadership that balanced military authority with civilian oversight, ensuring the survival and success of the young nation. Washington's leadership during the Revolutionary War demonstrated the critical importance of the commander-in-chief's role as both a strategist and a symbol of unity. He understood that the Army's success depended not only on battlefield victories but also on the morale and cohesion of the forces under his command. His ability to inspire loyalty and perseverance among his troops, even in the face of dire circumstances, established a model for future leaders. Washington's actions at Valley Forge, his ability to learn from setbacks, and his determination to adapt to evolving challenges showcased the resilience and adaptability required of a commander-in-chief. One of Washington's most significant contributions was his unwavering commitment to civilian control of the military. As commander-in-chief, he consistently emphasized the importance of serving under the authority of Congress, reinforcing the idea that the military was an instrument of the people rather than an independent power. This principle was evident in his correspondence with Congress, where he frequently sought their guidance and approval for military actions. His voluntary resignation of his commission at the end of the Revolutionary War was the ultimate expression of this commitment.
Is it just me, or does it feel like this goes forward and then back, and then goes forward and back, and then goes forward and back? It just seems like it's always dipping backwards to go forwards. Maybe that's just me, but I picked up on that for a little bit.
Setting a powerful precedent that military authority must always yield to civilian governance. As the nation's first president, Washington extended these principles to the executive office, shaping the role of commander-in-chief as defined by the Constitution. He recognized that the president's authority over the military was both a privilege and a responsibility. Washington carefully navigated the balance between exercising decisive leadership and respecting the limits of his power. This balance was evident in his handling of domestic challenges, such as the Whiskey Rebellion in 1794. Faced with a violent uprising, Washington invoked his authority as commander-in-chief to mobilize the militia and restore order, but he did so within the framework of constitutional law and civilian oversight. Washington's leadership also underscored the importance of strategic vision in the role of commander-in-chief. His ability to coordinate military efforts with diplomatic initiatives was instrumental in securing American independence. During his presidency, this vision extended to his foreign policy, where he prioritized the nation's long-term stability and independence. His proclamation of neutrality in 1793 exemplified his understanding that the commander-in-chief must consider not only immediate military concerns but also the broader geopolitical implications of their decisions. This emphasis on strategic foresight has become a hallmark of effective leadership in the office. Another key aspect of Washington's legacy was his insistence on accountability and ethical conduct. He held himself and his officers to high standards, understanding that the credibility of the military depended on its adherence to the principles of justice and integrity. This commitment was reflected in his interactions with his troops, Congress, and the public. Washington's refusal to exploit his position for personal gain, his decision to serve without pay, and his insistence on transparent governance set a standard for ethical leadership that remains central to the role of commander-in-chief. Washington's legacy also includes his ability to unify diverse factions and interests. As Commander-in-Chief during the Revolutionary War, he brought together soldiers from different colonies with varying backgrounds, loyalties, and priorities. His leadership fostered a sense of shared purpose, emphasizing that they were fighting not just for their individual colonies but for the collective ideals of liberty and independence. As president, he extended this unifying vision to the broader governance of the nation, striving to bridge the growing divisions between Federalists and Anti-Federalists. His ability to prioritize the nation's interests over partisan disputes reinforced the importance of the Commander-in-Chief as a stabilizing and unifying figure. The precedent Washington set for the peaceful transfer of power is another cornerstone of his legacy. By stepping down after 2 terms as president, he reaffirmed the principle that leadership is a temporary trust, not a lifelong entitlement. This decision underscored his belief in the importance of limiting the concentration of power and ensuring that the government remained accountable to the people. His example has continued to influence the office of Commander-in-Chief, reminding leaders of their responsibility to uphold democratic principles and respect the rule of law. Washington's legacy also includes his recognition of the importance of preparedness and professionalization in the military. During the Revolutionary War, he worked tirelessly to transform the Continental Army from a disorganized militia into a disciplined and effective fighting force. His emphasis on training, logistics, and leadership development laid the foundation for the modern American military. As Commander-in-Chief, he understood that the strength of the military was not only in its size or resources but in its discipline, cohesion, and dedication to the principles it served. Washington's vision for the role of Commander-in-Chief continues to resonate in contemporary governance. His belief in the importance of civilian oversight, strategic foresight, ethical conduct, and unity has shaped the expectations of the office and its occupants. His actions set a standard for how the Commander-in-Chief should navigate the complexities of leadership, balancing military authority with a deep commitment to the principles of democracy and the welfare of the nation. The enduring relevance of Washington's legacy can be seen in the many challenges and crises faced by subsequent commanders-in-chief. From Abraham Lincoln's leadership during the Civil War to Franklin D. Roosevelt's role in World War II, Washington's example has served as a guiding light for presidents navigating the intersection of military and civilian leadership. His ability to inspire trust, maintain integrity, and prioritize the nation's interests continues to define the ideal of the Commander-in-Chief. As the first Commander-in-Chief, George Washington faced an unprecedented task, but his leadership set a foundation that has endured for centuries. His ability to navigate the complexities of war, politics, and governance demonstrated the qualities required of a leader in the role. Through his actions, he ensured that the office of Commander-in-Chief would be not a tool of power but a cornerstone of the Republic's commitment to liberty, justice, and democracy. By the time of his death in 1799, Washington's legacy as the nation's first Commander-in-Chief was firmly established. He had not only led the United States to victory in its struggle for independence, but also provided a model for leadership that would inspire generations. His contributions to the office remain a testament to the power of principled leadership and the enduring importance of the ideals upon which the nation was founded.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through George Washington's incredible legacy.
George Whiffington's? Okay. All right. I think you just said the name wrong. It's fine. Okay. Well, I found the channel. There's a couple more of these Washington things that I want to do. I don't know how pumped I am about this channel. Clearly, I'll give it another shot. I listened to the James K. Polk one. I'm not done with it, but that was good. It didn't seem like it went backwards like this one did. So, I don't know. Tell me what you think. Should I continue doing videos from this channel? There's a few of you in particular that I'm thinking about. Because I will. I love the presidents and stuff like that, and they do a lot of them. They do other ones too. I think Napoleon's on there. But anyways, we're going to end it here. Until next time. Have a good day. Have a good. I had to see which button I was hitting. Have a good day. Have a good night.